The breakdown of respect couldn't really get any higher, could it, than the story that's come out today. I didn't know about this aspect of the story about the infected blood, and I'm simply staggered and horrified. It's the entire infected blood issue has been called the biggest treatment disaster in NHS history, and it represents a profound breakdown of trust between the public and the institutions meant to protect them. This particular aspect of the scandal, which emerged from the revelation that thousands of patients, including vulnerable schoolboys, were infected with HIV and hepatitis C through contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 1980s, has left a legacy of suffering, mistrust, and a deep sense of betrayal. There are three institutions that we should be able to trust in the UK: the school system, the NHS, and the legal system. And all three have let these individuals down. And this is about a group of boys who were unwitting subjects in medical experiments. And the Daily Telegraph, which has published a story about this today, describes these boys as being medical guinea pigs, a little bit like Mengele. The medical experiments which were conducted by Mengele during the Holocaust. The Lord Mayor Treloar's College was a school for children with disabilities. An NHS hospital and NHS doctors conducted trials on boys with haemophilia, and they knowingly used contaminated blood products. And these children, already facing significant health challenges, were subjected to treatments that their doctors knew were unsafe, all without their parents' informed consent. And the comparison made by the survivors to the atrocities committed by Nazi doctors underlines the severity of these ethical violations. It's a stark reminder of the importance of medical ethics and the catastrophic consequences when they are disregarded, deliberately disregarded. But here it's the delay and then the financial compensation offered to the survivors of £15,000. It's derisory. £15,000 probably wouldn't even cover the bar bill of the barristers involved in the legal process. I'm so staggered by this story, by the progressive betrayal of trust. It's almost impossible to imagine this has happened in my lifetime. And being on the haemophilia scale, I feel a great sense of a great bond with these individuals, and a great sense that I have narrowly and by some unbelievable stroke of luck avoided this problem. Richard Warwick, a survivor of Treloar's, has expressed outrage, the outrage felt by so many, saying that the amount is not only inadequate, but it fails to recognise the extent of the trauma inflicted. The reality that many of these individuals have lived decades with the knowledge that their suffering was a result of deliberate unethical actions by trusted medical professionals, that compounds the insult. And part of the problem is that our medical system is based on this patriarchal image of authority, that the doctor knows best. That image needs to be dumped. And we need to get to a point where the patient is in control of their own notes, where the patient has a proper access, where the patient is treated with respect, rather than as some sort of inconvenience and pushed into their place. I think this is a if you can't trust the medical profession, and clearly we can't, and you can't trust the legal profession, and clearly we can't, and we can't trust the schools, and clearly we can't. And I've got into a habit of thinking that the reason for all this is Brexit, and we should be things are readjusted. It's not. The reason is our absurd connivance with the image of authority. The reason is the nanny state. The reason is that we want everybody to respect authority. Well, we can't respect authority when it's been so abused. The total compensation for the victims of this scandal could amount to 2.7 million per person. The fact that the legal and bureaucratic processes have taken so long, leaving many victims to die without seeing justice, reflects poorly on the state's commitment to rectifying this injustice. And the report by Sir Brian Langstaff, who condemned the chilling cover-up by the health service and government officials, highlights how documents were destroyed, information deliberately withheld to protect those responsible. This has only served to deepen the public's mistrust in the institutions meant to serve us. The legal profession has rightly come under scrutiny, with accusations that while the survivors and their families continue to suffer, those within the legal profession have profited from the extended legal battles and the compensation claims. Of course they have. And the disparity between the suffering of the victims and the wealth accumulated by those navigating the legal complexities of this case is a stark illustration of the systemic inequalities that often exacerbate these scandals. And this isn't the only one. The post office scandal is another example. The Windrush and the Malkinson case of justice that has gone completely wrong, and a reluctance to pay out, a reluctance to recognise the damage done. As Malkinson says, he's not the only one. The Daily Telegraph today, where the article appears, notes that this scandal is not just an historical event, but a continuing crisis, with many victims still awaiting compensation and justice. Years after the event. The government's recent commitments to fast-track compensation payments are a step in the right direction, but they're long overdue. A sticking plaster for the gaping wound that has been inflicted on three of the main institutions on which ordinary people rely: school, the medical system, and the law. All on the take. And as campaigners and survivors have pointed out, the delay in justice has caused further harm, with nearly 100 victims dying since the final compensation report was published. None of this should be happening in a world where immediate information has already been published, and what we're seeing is the dragging of feet by officials who now have to cough up. The infected blood scandal has left an indelible mark, a stain, on Britain's trust in the healthcare and the legal systems, and now in the education system. The use of vulnerable individuals as medical guinea pigs, the subsequent cover-up, the inadequate and delayed compensation efforts are all symptoms of a broader failure of accountability and ethics, and a demonstration that the people who are still in charge, they've all got their snouts in the trough. They're all pigs, incapable of empathy, incapable of seeing what is right and what is wrong, and busy lining their own pockets. Hoink, hoink, hoink. It's disgusting. Utterly, utterly disgusting. The survivors' fight for justice is a poignant reminder that institutions must be held to account, that trust once broken is incredibly difficult to rebuild, and that if this is a demonstration of an attempt to rebuild trust, this is a demonstration of the inadequacy of the system. This scandal needs to act as a catalyst for change. We need to ensure that this sort of travesty cannot happen again. And a £15,000 payout for ruining people's lives, I think, is it's so derisory. It infects every single institution within this scandal. Every the level of corruption going right up to the top. As the government moves forward with compensation, it must commit to the cultural and institutional reforms necessary to restore public trust. And that means, I think, a revision of this financial offer. But certainly, the government at the highest level needs to get involved with the story and needs to intercede and needs to meet these individuals. It's the least the government can do. I'm so shocked. I'd love to know your thoughts on this, and I'd love to know if you are as shocked as I am.